Hello YouTube, hello brewers, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how we dry hop our NEIPA. It's done a little bit differently compared to how we do our XBA. With our XBA we use biotransformation. With the NEIPA we cold crash down to 10 degrees, remove the yeast, and then we dry hop at 18 grams per litre on it. I'm going to show you how we do it. Let's go. So first things first, we do a VDK rest, vicinal diketone rest. So we just take a sample out of the sample port. You know the drill. I've showed you another video. If you haven't seen that one, go check it out. It's called a forced diacetyl test. So we've performed the forced diacetyl test here. It's passed. We've also checked our pHs in the range, which is 4 to 4.5, spot on. So we're at 4.2, 4.3. And we've also checked and logged our final gravity. All the numbers match, 10-10 final gravity. Numbers match in the software too, so bonus, well done. The yeast did their work. All right, first things first, we grab our sanitizer and our isopropyl alcohol. Sanding up our CIP. Gonna do the same with our quick connect and silicon gasket. All right, now that's on, we're gonna grab our CO2. Just got our reg set to 40 pound. We're gonna blow on and purge that space of any oxygen so it doesn't become dissolved oxygen in the final product. All right, that's it. Slowly open up our butterfly valve. We're just gonna blow out a little bit of CO2 through the tank. At this point, there's no oxygen in any of the product. Unspunded fermentation with ale yeast is going to give you between 1 to 1.7 volumes of carbonation in the final product. So now we just close our blow-off arm, but we're going to leave our bucket and blow-off arm on and in. We're going to bring our tank pressure up to just above 1 bar. We're going to confirm our tank. FV8, and then we're going to go over to our PLC. FV8, and we're going to bring that down to 10 degrees C. On, confirm the solenoid valve just went off, and now we're going to cool this down to 10 degrees. So now we're cold crashing down to 10 degrees C, and what that does, it'll flocculate all the yeast out. The ladies, they'll go to sleep, so they'll sink to the bottom. And then we're going to dump the cone tomorrow once this is 10 degrees. All right, we're back next day. Our fermenter FV8 is now at 10 degrees C. So what we've got to do now is dump the cone. We reach terminal gravity and we've got the correct pH. Now we're going to remove the yeast, and what this does, any yeast in suspension at 10 degrees will be inactive. The yeast cake at the bottom we're going to dump. And then when we dry hop at 10 degrees C, we're not going to get what's called dry hop creep. And what that is, dry hop creep is the yeast, if you were to dry hop at 20 degrees C, it would create another little fermentation because there is fermentable sugars in the hops, and they would start a small fermentation which would create alpha-acetyl lactate, and that will eventually produce diacetyl. We want to avoid that obviously. So we're dumping off the main yeast cake. Any yeast in suspension are going to be inactive because we're at 10 degrees C. All right, so we've got our components to dump the cone, soaking in 2% paracetic acid. We've got a diaphragm valve, sight glass, some clamps, tri-clamps and gaskets, and we've got a 25mm hose. So we've just got yeast in the cone today that we're going to dump out. Paracetic acid and a bottle brush. We'll put our isopropyl on, and then we're going to build up. Sight glass on first. Diaphragm valve, clamp. In this instance, we do not need the cone number 5000. We're just going to go straight into the trade waste because we're only going to remove the yeast cake. Close our diaphragm valve. We're not going to pump up our head pressure too high now because we actually want it. We're eventually going to let the head pressure ride out to 0. Open our dump valve. So yeah, nice healthy yeast. As I've said in previous videos, we pitch and ditch, we only use our yeast once. And the reason for that is consistency in the product. And it only works out to about 11 cents a litre in our yeast pitch, so not a big deal. And it's the most consistent way to brew beer. You just want to be careful with your diaphragm valve that you don't open it too much, too fast. What will happen, the beer will punch through the cone. We want everything to slowly push down and out of that 60-degree cone. Helps we haven't got a lot of head pressure as well. We're about 10 pound. Tobes, you're in it.
Hello YouTube.
We slow our diaphragm valve up, close it, and there's the NEIPA there. See that last bit of yeast? We want to get it right out so we avoid any dry hop creep. One cone dumped. Back in the paracetic acid hose, and just isopropyl to finish it off. You're going to clear that yeast debris and yeast cake and beer out of the line as well. Now we're going to soak the food grade funnel in the paracetic acid. I really want to explain this because some of the questions are pretty painful from the last time we dry hopped. No, there's no such thing as a bad question, brewers. Isopropyl. You get one shot when it comes to finished beer, so if we do double our efforts to sanitise, got more of a chance we won't infect anything. All right, just going to blow out that paracetic. And now I'm going to mansplain what actually happens here, so everyone's on the same page, all right? I'm going to wipe the paracetic acid off my hands, and then I'm going to go as far as drawing on my uni tank to help. This is what we have. This is the beer. This is the 25% headspace in a uni tank. And what we're going to do, we're going to blow CO2 up through the spray ball arm, and it's going to fill this headspace with CO2. And then once that goes in and fills up with CO2, it's going to slowly come out our blow off arm and into the sanitizer. And that's going to create a positive atmosphere in our uni tank. So we've got beer, CO2, and we're going to pour the hops in, and we have a blanket of CO2 that protects the beer from oxidation. Yeah, it's blowing straight out. We're wasting the CO2, but who gives a fuck? CO2's worth nothing. There's $20,000 worth of beer below here, and we're going to use about 25 fucking cents of CO2. So do the maths. So that's it, 25%. We've got beer, CO2, going to pour the hops in, and that's a blanket over the beer. All right, we're dry hopping this NEIPA at 18 grams per litre. So we're going to put 20 kilos in our dry hop. We've got Citra, Amarillo, Mosaic, and the Galaxy, 5 of each. We've got our CO2 line ready to go. That is set to 5 pound. So we're slowly going to let out our head pressure. Have our CO2 ready. Now we've got positive pressure in the tank through the airlock, 5 pound running through. Positive pressure, that's filled up with CO2 now. We've got beer below. Now we can pull off the dry hop port and add our 20 kilograms of hops. So we've pulled our funnel out of the paracetic acid, and now just adding the isopropyl to it just to finish it off. We're going to grab all our hops, whack them up on top of the uni tank. All right, we're going to mist over our dry hop port, hit our gloves. All right, let's go. Just going to give that a rest, blow that out now. Get now positive pressure back in the tank, keeping that blanket of CO2 over the actual beer itself. There we go again, last 2 bags. Yeah, so the CO2 is now just made a blanket over the top, as I drew on the uni tank before, above the beer. It's our last edition of the Amarillo. Alright, dry hop port back on. Positive pressure again. So if you watch this now, I'm just going to blow it out. So any hop debris that was on the silicon gasket, we're just going to blow out now. See that? Alright, now I'm going to offset my clamp as well. Just another indication that the beer's been dry hopped. And I'm also going to write DH on the tank so I know it's dry hopped. This dry hop port won't open up again now. So I'm just going to give it a couple of turns with the screwdriver just to make sure we haven't got any micro leaks in the tank. Anything above the beer you should nip up with a screwdriver because you can get micro leaks. That's how you lose head pressure. Down we hop, clean your shit up. Just going to run that CO2 for a couple of minutes now. So on this occasion we're going to write dry hop and we're going to put the date on, which it is, Claire, the 2nd of the 10th. And now what we're going to do, it's anywhere between 4 to 8 days at 10 degrees with this dry hop. After the 4 days, every day after, I'm just going to take a sample and taste it, see where it needs to be. That's how we know when it's ready, just aroma and flavour. When you do try it, you've got to remember it's going to be astringent at this point too, because there's hop debris throughout your beer, so you need to know where that fine line is. It just comes with time and knowing your product, knowing your beer, where you want it. So trial and error usually. Get me cleaning up, wetting your feet. So what we're going to do now is stop the CO2 blowing through the uni tank, and we're going to close our blow-off arm. That's it. We're going to remove our blow-off arm extension, and we're going to pour our paracetic acid over and around the feet of the uni tank, just so it kills anything that's there. And now we're going to pump our CO2 up, so we're on 5 pound. We're just going to pump up the reg to around 18, then we'll go over and shut it off once it's done. Going to pump up our head pressure to about 1 bar, which is 15 pound. All right, so the most important thing to remember is we're adding the hops to the uni tank. The beer itself is 10 degrees. So the yeast are no longer active. We've removed the bulk of the yeast cake, off the beer so we don't get dry hop creep. We could probably do a whole nother video on dry hop creep, we might in the future, but basically what it does, there's sugars in the hops. The yeast will metabolise the sugars and create alpha-acetic lactate, as we've spoken about in other videos, and that you'll cold crash your beer and you'll have diacetyl in it. So we want to avoid that. So we remove the yeast off, we're at 10 degrees C, and then we add our dry hops. We're going to hold at 10 degrees C, probably for, I reckon, 6 days, but I've gone as far as 8 before. I've gone up to 8 with Galaxy 2022, so different crops. It's a agricultural product, so they differ every year, every crop differs. So you want to use your snoz and your mouth to get your beer where you want it to be, and so it's as consistent as it can be. All right, guys, thanks for watching. That's it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Helps us grow the channel, helps make the content possible. Hope it helps. Hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next vid. Hooroo. Yeah, get it out of my face.